So good evening everyone and welcome to this week 10 live interactive session of engineering hydrological course. So in the last 2 week, that is week 8 and 9, we have started with new module called hydrograph or hydrologic analysis, and this week we are going to continue the same topic and we are going to extend it into routing techniques, that is flood routing. So we are going to talk about morely on flood routing, and there are different techniques of flood routing, that is hydrologic and hydraulic routing. So firstly, like, we know what is hydrograph now, right? We have studied different types of hydrograph, starting from unit hydrograph, synthetic unit hydrograph, instantaneous unit hydrograph, and Snyder's unit hydrograph, right? So we have learned all about hydrograph. So basically what does a hydrograph does? It gives the representation of discharge at a location in a river or in a channel, right? So but then we also studied like how different factors are affecting flow or hydrograph, right? So as the water moves from upstream to downstream, there are certain changes that are taking place, and that changes are nothing but the size, the shape, the peak flow, the time of peak, and slope of rising and falling level. Like, these are the characteristics of a hydrograph that are changing place when it travels from upstream to downstream. So why does this happen? So let us see like this. So when it is traveling from upstream to downstream of a river, so there are three changes that are occurring. The first thing is storage in the river reach is changing. The second is resistance to flow due to friction get changes, and last is lateral flow, right? So these are the three things that changes when a water is traveling from upstream to downstream of a river. Also in a catchment there will be some reservoir structure, like, so that will also have some effect on the hydrograph. So those effects are due to there will be change in storage, and also there will be change in outflow characteristics of the reservoir, right? So these are the changes that will happen to hydrograph when it is traveling from upstream to downstream of a river, or when there is a storage structure in the reservoir. So this was all about hydrograph, like what will happen when we plot a hydrograph upstream of a river, and what will happen in downstream of a river. So there will be some changes, and those changes are size, shape, peak flow, time to peak, and slope of rising level. And this happens because there are two scenarios. First is when it is traveling from upstream to downstream, then these are the changes that will be occurring. And once, if there is some changes in the storage structure like reservoir, then these are the changes that will happen. Now we'll come to the topic, today's topic, that is flow routing or flood routing, right? So let us see or define like what is flood routing or flow routing. So today we are going to discuss about flood routing. So let us assume we have a hydrograph which is on the upstream side of a catchment or a river, that is, which is at an inlet. So let us draw one hydrograph. This is Q, this is T, and we have a hydrograph here with some peak discharge, right? So this is at the upstream side of a river, right? Now let us assume we have this hydrograph, we have the peak discharge and time base of the hydrograph. Now we want to calculate, or we need to find what will be the changes in this hydrograph when it is flowing from upstream to downstream end, right? So if we want to derive another hydrograph at the downstream of the river, so we have to use some technique, right? And that technique is nothing but it's called flood routing. So flood routing technique is nothing but using a hydrograph which is on the upstream side of a river, and we derive a hydrograph on the downstream side of a river. So that is done only by using flood routing techniques, right? So we'll get another hydrograph, something like this, Q peak, and this is T, this is Q. So if we look at the two hydrograph, when the hydrograph was there on the upstream side, which was known to us, we can see that the peak was high, right? The peak was more. But as soon as we got the value at the outlet, the peak reduces, right? And we know the reason of this, because the water is traveling from upstream to downstream. There might be some losses because of which the peak will obviously get reduced, right? Now there are two different types of changes. The first changes is it will be in terms of peak of discharge, and another thing, it will be due to the time lag between, or the lag difference between the two discharge, right? So there will be two changes when we are plotting or deriving a downstream hydrograph with reference to upstream hydrograph. So the first change is, we call it as attenuation. So what does attenuation means? Attenuation means nothing but the difference in peak. So if we can see here, right, there is some difference in peak of both the discharge of the hydrograph. So this difference is nothing but, it's called attenuation. So we'll call it as, attenuation is nothing but reduction in peak, right? Now there will be some difference in lag also, right? So that lag difference is called it as, we call it as lag. So the second term is lag. The lag is nothing but difference between two peak. So here lag means time to peak, basically how much time it is taking to achieve the highest peak is called as time lag here, right? So if we can see that here the time is T1, that is the time required to achieve Q peak in upstream hydrograph. Similarly here the time is T2. So there will be some time difference between both the hydrograph to achieve the corresponding peak. So that difference is called as lag. It is difference between the two peak. So this is what changes when we talk about hydrograph. So the definition of flood routing is, so we can define flood routing or flow routing as a technique of determining the flood hydrograph of a section at the rate downstream. So the term important here is, we are deriving the flood hydrograph of a section at a downstream of a river by utilizing the data of flood flow at upstream section, right? So this is the definition of flood routing. What we do is, we are deriving the flood hydrograph at the downstream of a river by using the flood hydrograph at upstream, right? So there are different types of flood routing. So we can derive flood routing into different types. So we can derive it as, first we can call it as hydrologic routing, and another is hydraulic routing. So what is the difference between the two? It depends. Both the method uses different sets of equation. So hydrologic routing is governed by continuity equation, right? Whereas hydraulic routing is governed by continuity plus momentum equation. This both equation is used in hydraulic routing, whereas hydrologic routing is based on continuity equation, and also on a very important relationship, that is between QNS relationship. We call it as QNS relationship. It means outflow and storage. So relationship between outflow and storage, it is also very important when we are using hydrologic routing. Then the another difference between the two is, hydrologic routing is based on the assumption of lumped model or lumped flow routing, whereas hydraulic is based on distributed flow routing. So in the previous class we have learned about different types of hydrological models, right? So there we have talked about lumped model and distributed model. So what is the difference between the two? Lumped model is like where we ignore the spatial variation in the data. So we assume that the entire catchment is having similar property. That is, if we talk about precipitation data, then according to lumped model, it says that the precipitation won't vary in the catchment, but whereas distributed model consider that spatial variation in the data. So we know about lumped model and distributed model. So these are the two routing techniques that are available, that is hydrologic routing and hydraulic routing. So let us first focus on the first routing technique, that is hydrologic routing. So we'll look at what is the exact equation that a hydrologic routing is using in order to achieving the flood routing, right? So we know that it uses continuity equation, right? So continuity equation in terms is nothing but I minus Q is equals to storage. This is the continuity equation we know. So hydrologic routing is based on this continuity equation, but we know that each of this term varies with respect to time, right? So if we take differentiative of this, we'll get inflow at any particular time is equals minus outflow at any particular time will give us ds by dt, right? So but the problem here is both Q and S are unknown to us. The only data that we have is inflow, that is we only know the flood hydrograph or the characteristics of flood hydrograph at the upstream of the section. So which is the inflow, whereas the outflow component is the flood hydrograph which we want to derive at the corresponding downstream section of the river, and also we don't have any data with the storage capacity of the river or of the channel. So in this case both Q and S are unknown. So what we can do is we can derive storage as a function of I, right? So we have derived this equation before also, and similarly Q, right? So by using this equation we can say that the storage function is a function of inflow and outflow, right? Now the hydrologic routing is further divided or further classified into three categories. So the first category is we call it as reservoir routing, right? And reservoir routing is basically done by level pull method. Now what does level pull method means here is we'll talk more about this in next few minutes. We'll talk about more on level pull method, but now you can say that you need to understand that the storage is a function of discharge which is non-linear. We'll talk more in detail about level pull method, but for now the only thing that we need to remember is it is a function of outflow, but that too a non-linear function. The second method is flow routing in a channel. We also call this as channel routing, and this can be achieved by Muskingum method. So there are two methods that we need to study in this week. First is level pull method in order to achieve reservoir routing, and the second is Muskingum method in order to achieve channel routing, right? So this is all about, like, this is a small brief about hydrologic routing, right? So we talked about the equation that is used, and also we talked about what are the different types of routing that we need to study under hydrologic routing. The first is reservoir routing and the second is channel routing. Now let's look into the detailed equation, the detailed equation that is used. So we know it is based on continuity equation, and that continuity equation is nothing but ds by dt is equals to it minus qt, right? But if you want to look into the detailed equation which is used under hydrologic routing, is we need to find the changes that is occurring at upstream and downstream, right? So we can say that the upstream location is noted by 1, whereas the downstream location is noted by 2. So we want to see the changes that are occurring when the water is traveling from upstream to downstream. So there would be some changes in storage from S2 minus S1, right? Similarly, there would be some changes in the inflow between upstream and downstream, right? So we can say that we will take the average I1 plus I2 divided by 2 times of delta T minus Q1 plus Q2 by 2 of delta T. So this is the equation that is used under hydrologic routing in order to calculate the difference in storage or the characteristics of downstream hydrograph. So this is all about hydrologic routing. Now we can talk about hydraulic routing. So first let us enlist what are the advantages of hydraulic routing over hydrologic routing. So the first advantage is it is more accurate. So why it is more accurate? Because we know it is based on a distributed modeling approach. So obviously it will give more accurate result. The second thing is the flow in a river is unsteady. That is, the flow keep changes. We know that the discharge is a function of time, right? The flow in a river is a function of time. So this is covered by hydraulic routing, whereas it is not covered in hydrologic routing. The next thing is it is governed by both the equation. It is governed by both, that is continuity and momentum. So these are like some advantages that hydraulic routing has over hydrologic routing. Now let us look into this equation, the combined equation of continuity and momentum equation, and this equation is known as Sant-Venant's equation. So it is a really important equation. So this equation is like dV by dt plus V of dV by dx plus G dV by dx equals to G SF minus S1. So this is the detailed Sant-Venant equation, the derivation of which we can see in the video lecture that is given. The derivation is not that much important to us, as we are not going to cover hydraulic routing in this particular topic. We are only going to focus on hydrologic routing, that is reservoir routing and channel routing. But this equation is really important, Sant-Venant equation. So if you are using any hydraulic model, it will be based on this equation, Sant-Venant equation. Now let's focus in more detail about reservoir routing, right? That is the type of hydrologic routing. So this we know by now, like whenever a flood is passing through a reservoir, it will experience certain changes in the hydrograph. So if you look at the image here, the red curve, the red hydrograph is the inflow hydrograph, that will be on the upstream, whereas the green hydrograph is the outflow hydrograph, which will be at a certain point downstream of the river. So what changes we are seeing in this diagram, particular diagram, is there is some difference in peak, and that difference in peak is called it as attenuation, right? So the outflow hydrograph will have reduced peak, right? And also if you can see, there is some difference in lag, right? If you can see that the peak discharge which is occurring in inflow and the peak discharge which is occurring at outflow, there is some time difference between the two, and that time difference is called it as lag, right? So this we have studied in the this we know by the definition of flood routing that there will be some difference in attenuation and lag. But why this difference is occurring, why this is coming? So let us see what is the reason behind that. So if you look at the figure here, it is saying that during the rise of outflow hydrograph, the inflow is greater than the outflow. That is during the rising limb. If we are comparing the rising limb of both the hydrograph, we can say that the inflow hydrograph rising limb is higher than the outflow hydrograph. And why this is? This is because of the storage capacity of the reservoir, right? Now, when we are observing the recession limb, that is the falling limb of both the hydrograph, we are seeing that the falling limb of the outflow hydrograph is above or is greater than the inflow hydrograph. And why this is? Because there is a depletion in storage, because after the peak there won't be any what we can say, there won't be any involvement of rainfall after that, right? Because it will only be the function of storage. So there is some depletion of storage. So because of depletion of storage, the inflow hydrograph falling limb is lesser than the outflow. And if you look at the maximum storage, so the maximum storage in the catchment will be at a point where both the curves are intersecting. So that is the point here shown in yellow color. So this is the reason for attenuation and lag, why it is happening, because of storage in the reservoir and also because of depletion of storage. Now the reservoir routing, maybe the water stored in the reservoir may discharge in two ways. First is controlled way and second is uncontrolled way, right? So the controlled way is that the release through control gate, pipe flow through turbines or any outlet work. That is controlled work. But uncontrolled is freely operating spillway, right? Or let us say there is a condition where the dam is going to be overflow. So that condition is also coming under uncontrolled flow. So the water stored in the reservoir may discharge in two different ways, that is controlled and uncontrolled. And because of this, we are going to talk about different types of functions, that is variable function and invariable function. So also we can consider a reservoir having a spillway for outflow. So what we are going to see here by this means that when a flood wave passes through the reservoir, the flood water is discharged through the spillway. That is, the outflow is dependent on the water surface elevation. That is, Q is a function of head of reservoir. Also, the amount of stored water S also depends on H, right? So we can say that the amount of water stored is also a function of water surface elevation. So if we look at these two equations, both the terms are dependent on elevation. So we can say that since the right hand side side of the equations are same, we can say that the left hand side will also be same. So then we can connect that the storage is a function of discharge. So this is very important relation when we talked about reservoir routing. That is, storage is a function of outflow or forced storage is a function of discharge, and we call this as SQ relationship. Now this is the standard equation which we can use if we want to find what is the amount of discharge that is happening through a spillway, right? So here CD is the coefficient of discharge, LE is the effective length of crust, and H is the depth of water above the spillway crust. So using this equation we can derive the discharge that is occurring through the spillway. Now here we are saying that when the flood wave travels through the reservoir, we can observe that the water level changes with time, and because of this change in water level with time, there would be some changes in discharge and storage capacity of the reservoir also. So here the inflow in the reservoir, which is the water level. So we are saying that the outflow, the storage capacity and head is also a function of time. Because inflow is a function of time, we are connecting that with storage capacity, outflow, that is discharge, and head will also changes with over time with respect to time. Now that we have seen the relationship between S and Q, there may be two different types of relationship. The first relationship will be invariable storage function, and the second is variable storage function, right? So invariable storage function means it has got the form of that storage is a function of discharge, and the important thing to remember here is it is applied to a reservoir with horizontal water surface. If the water surface is horizontal, we are going to apply invariable storage function. The name itself says that in variable, that is, it is not going to change. So this is only going to apply when there is a horizontal water surface, and also when the velocity of flow in the reservoir is very less. So this equation is valid only when the reservoir is having a horizontal water surface and the flow velocity is very less. So what kind of change is we are going to observe there is whenever there is intersection between inflow and outflow hydrograph, that intersection point will give us maximum storage as well as maximum output. So here R is the notation for maximum storage and P is the notation for maximum outflow. But let us say there is a situation where the channel is not horizontal and also there is an effect of due to backwater curve. That means the water level is changing. So in that case we are going to use variable storage function. So what kind of changes we are going to observe in the outflow hydrograph. So here we can see whenever we have an intersection between inflow and outflow hydrograph, that point will give us maximum storage, right? But the maximum outflow value is occurring at some difference, and this is due to the effect of backwater. In variable storage, R and P was occurring at the same point, but here there is an effect of backwater because of which the maximum outflow is occurring at the peak of outflow, right? So this is how the curve is representing here. The peak of outflow is achieved first and then the R is achieved, maximum storage. Now let us talk about level pool routing. So how does level pool method works? So we know that level pool approach is used in order to calculate the hydrograph characteristics at the downstream, right? So there is some certain specified steps in order to derive the outflow hydrograph using level pool technique, right? So we are going to study level pool technique, and this technique is also called as modified pools. So we are going to study modified pools method, and this is also called as level pool method. So we know the equation on which any hydrologic routing equation is based. So that equation is S2 minus S1 is equals to I1 plus I2 by 2 times of QT minus Q1 plus Q2 by 2 of delta T, right? So we know this equation. This equation is for any type of hydrologic routing, that is reservoir or channel. So what we are going to do is we are arranging this term with known values on LHS. That is, whatever value is known to us, we are going to keep it on LHS. So the known value to us is we know the inflow value and we know the storage capacity of upstream hydrograph, right? So we know the storage capacity of upstream hydrograph, we know the outflow of upstream hydrograph, and what we are required is the characteristics of downstream hydrograph. So we required is the storage capacity of downstream hydrograph as well as the discharge or outflow of the downstream hydrograph. So what we have done is we have rearranged the equation by keeping the known parameters on the left hand side. Now let's look into the steps that are required. So we are required to calculate S2 and Q2, and how we can do that is by using these simple steps. So the first step is we need to prepare a curve between S plus Q delta T by 2 versus elevation. The elevation value is known to us and we know the value of storage and Q delta T by 2 at inlet, so we are going to prepare a plot between them. Then we are going to prepare another plot. Prepare a plot between Q versus head, that is Q versus elevation. So we have two plots now. One is between S plus Q delta T by 2 versus head, and another is between outflow versus head. Now what we are going to do is we are going to find the value of SIQ at starting of routing. So we know the value of inflow, storage and discharge at the starting of the routing, that is the upstream hydrograph. We know the characteristics of upstream hydrograph, that is the third step. And the fourth step is to determine the value of H for S2 plus Q2 delta T by 2 using plot of step 1. So using this plot, what we are going to do, we are going to find the value of H corresponding to this term, right? And in the next step, for this value of H and for this value of H, we are going to find Q2 by using plot 2. So from first plot we are getting the value of H corresponding to H2 plus Q2 delta T by 2, and for that H we are going to calculate the outflow value by using plot obtained through step 2. And now we are going to obtain this term, that is the required term on the right hand side, by deducting S2 plus Q2 by delta 2 and Q2 delta T. So by subtracting these two terms, we are going to get the value on that is required towards right hand side. So this is the approach that is very famously known as modified pools method, and this is used for reservoir routing. So whenever we are going to use reservoir routing, so we are going to use this approach given by modified pools, whose steps I have explained. So we are going to look at a numerical example also in order to better understand reservoir routing using modified pools method. Now we can talk about, after reservoir routing, we can talk about channel routing. So it is also called as river routing. So what is the difference between the two terms? So if we talked about channel routing, in the channel routing what happens is there is a change in the shape of hydrograph as it travels downwards from a channel, right? And this can be studied in various operations. So it can be used for flood forecasting operation, for flood protection works, etc. So here what happens is, here the storage is in the channel depends on both the inflow and outflow, right? Whereas in reservoir routing it depends only on the outflow. So here the storage is a function of both inflow as well as outflow. So let us take different scenarios here. So the first scenario is when the channel is having uniform flow. So when the channel is having uniform flow, it means that the inflow is equals to outflow. So this term is only known as prism, right? Because the storage in such a channel is known as prism storage. Now what happens is, consider there is a stage of flood wave. As the flood wave enters the channels upstreams, right, becomes more than the downstream. So it is, the flood wave is entering through the upstream. So what happens is the inflow will be obviously more than the outflow, right? So whatever amount of water is adding through flood wave, we call those as wedge. So here there is two important definition that we should understand. The first is called as prism storage and another is called as wedge storage. So what is the difference between the two? So prism storage is nothing but it is the volume that would exist if we assume that there is a uniform flow. So if you look at this figure here, there is a uniform flow. So whatever value or volume of water is there, when we consider that the flow is uniform, that is account of prism, that accounts prism storage. But this is not the scenario, right? There would be some difference when a flood wave is occurring, right? There will be some changes in the flow would not be uniform, right? So whatever amount of volume is formed above this water surface profile, that will account for wedge storage, right? So when we assume that the flow volume formed by an imaginary plane parallel to the channel bottom is known as prism storage. So first we'll write the definitions of the two terms, that is plane storage and prism storage, wedge storage and prism storage. So let us see, we have a channel bottom which is inclined, right? And we are assuming an imaginary line which is parallel to this channel bottom, right? So whatever amount of water, volume of water is under this imaginary surface, we call it as prism storage, right? But we know that the flow will not be uniform. The volume of water stored, it could be above this imaginary line or it could be below this imaginary line, right? So we can say that it could be something like this. So whatever water is below this imaginary surface, we call it as negative wedge storage, and whatever value is above this imaginary line, we call it as positive wedge storage. Then again this is negative, right? So if you want to define what is prism storage and wedge storage, we can say that the volume formed by an imaginary plane parallel to channel bottom, right? So this is the definition of prism storage. And at the same time, what is wedge storage? The volume stored between imaginary line and actual water storage. An actual water surface, actual water surface profile is known as wedge storage. Now the prism storage and wedge storage, they both account for inflow and outflow. So the prism storage will account for outflow. So prism storage is a function of outflow, whereas wedge storage is a function of inflow, right? So we know that the prism storage is a function of outflow here. That is, prism storage is similar to that of a reservoir storage, but whereas wedge storage is a function of inflow. And we know that in channel routing, the total storage is the sum of both prism storage and wedge storage. So this is the equation which takes into account for inflow as well as outflow. So we can say that this equation is nothing but it is given by Muskingum method. So Muskingum method takes into account both the inflow and outflow also, and the storage equation is given by Muskingum is this: S is equal to K xi plus 1 minus x of q, right? So where K times of q is nothing but the prism storage, because it depends only on the outflow, whereas the volume of storage, wedge storage, accounts of inflow. So K of x I minus q, where x is nothing but weighing factor. So when we add these two terms, we get the equation of Muskingum, that is S is equals to Kq plus Kx 1 minus q. And we can simplify this equation further, and we can write it as S is equals to K xi plus 1 minus xi of q, and this is nothing but a representation of linear model. So a hydrologic river routing method uses Muskingum method, whereas a hydrologic reservoir routing method uses level pool method, or we call it as modified pools method. So here the value of x, it varies from 0 to 0.5, right? So if we have a full wedge, then we can assume the value of x is 0.5, and if there is no wedge, we can assume the value of x is equals to 0.5. However, in natural steam, the x value lies between 0 to 0.3 or with a mean value of 0.2. Now there are certain steps that are required. So the first important thing here is to derive the terms called as C1, C2 and C3. So if we want to use Muskingum method, so we know the hydrograph characteristics at upstream, that is we know the value of Q1, right? We know the inflow value I1 and we know the inflow value of N2. We want to derive the outflow characteristic, that outflow at the downstream section, that is flood characteristics at downstream Q2. So how we can do that is we have to calculate this unknown coefficient C1, C2 and C3, and the equation for them is C1 is equals to delta T minus 2kx plus 2k1 minus x plus delta T. And the important note here is that the addition of this coefficient would be equal to 1. And also before we use this equation, we have to check whether this equation is satisfied or not. If this equation is satisfying, we can say that the value of Q2 will be more accurate. So the condition is that the k value should be greater than delta T and delta T value should be greater than 2kx. So first thing is here we need to check whether it is satisfied or not. Once it is satisfied, then we can calculate the coefficient, and once we get the value of coefficient, then using this equation we can calculate the outflow at the downstream. So these are nothing but this is the steps like how we are going to calculate Q2 value using this equation, right? So now that we have studied reservoir routing and we have also studied channel routing, let us see numerical based on both, that is reservoir routing as well as channel routing. So the first numerical that we are going to see here is based on reservoir routing using modified pools method. So we have seen the steps, like what are the steps that we have to follow in order to calculate the outflow characteristics of a downstream hydrograph, right? So let us read the question here, that we have elevation data, that is we have H value, we have storage value S, and we have outflow value. And also at the same time it is saying that the flowing flood enters the reservoir when the initial water level was 51 meter, right? So this is the initial condition, and we have the value of time period here, and also we have the value of inflow. So we have inflow, outflow, storage, elevation and time. It is asking us to route the hydrograph using modified pulse method and determine the attenuation, reservoir lag and the maximum water surface elevation. So we need to determine three things: attenuation, reservoir lag and maximum water surface elevation. So how we are going to proceed? First we are going to draw a table, whatever table is given to us, right? Then we have marked this elevation 51 meter. Why we have marked this elevation? Because this is the initial level. They have said that the flowing flood enters the reservoir when the initial water level in the reservoir was 51 meter. So that is why we have marked this equation value here. 51 meter is the initial level. Now what we are going to do is the first step is to plot H versus indicator storage curve, that is H versus S plus Q by 2 delta T. So we need to plot this. So what we are going to do is we are going to obtain this term. So we know elevation, we know storage, we know outflow. Since the value of S and Q is known to us, we can calculate the value of S plus Q by 2 delta T, right? So we got the value of this. Now what we are going to do, we are going to plot elevation, that is first column, versus S plus QT delta T, that is fourth column. So we are going to plot a curve. So this is the curve on which H is on the y-axis and the indicator storage is on the x-axis, right? So we have plotted this curve. So this is the curve between elevation versus indicator storage curve. So this is the first step. The second step is to plot H versus the outflow. So we know the value of H, that is first column, and we know the value of outflow, that is third column. So we are going to plot H versus Q as our second step. So the red curve here, the red curve here indicates H versus outflow curve, right? So outflow value is on the top x-axis and the bottom x-axis represent the storage indicative term, right? So we have H versus Q, also H versus storage indicative term. Now the next step is to calculate this term, that is S2 minus Q2 delta T by 2, right? So this we have calculated, but this we have to calculate it for initial condition. So the initial condition that was given to us was when H was 51 and outflow was 27. So this was the initial condition. So we are going to keep the initial condition as H is equals to 51 and outflow equals to 27, right? And by using H and Q, we are going to calculate this term S2 minus Q delta theta by 2, right? and this term we are getting as 5.012. So how we have calculated this term? By using this equation, that is S2 minus Q2 by delta T is equals to S2 plus Q2 by delta T minus Q2 delta T. So we know the value of Q2, that is 27, and we know the value of delta T. So the delta T is 4, right? So by using that value we have calculated 5.012. Now we want to calculate the value of S2 plus Q2 delta T by 2. So that we can calculate it by using this equation. Since we know the value of inflow, we know the value of outflow, we want to calculate the value of S2 minus Q1 delta T by 2, right? So how we can do that is by simply adding these two terms, that is 5.01 plus 0.29, it gives us the value of 5.29. Now by using this value of 5.29, we want to calculate the value of HN outflow, right? So from this curve we know the value of storage indicative as 5.29. So corresponding head is the required head, that is 50.97. So the head is 50.97, and for this particular head, what is the outflow? It is 25.67. So now again we know the value of outflow, which is 25.69. So by using this value and this equation, we are going to calculate the term S2 minus Q2 by delta T, right? So how we can get is 25.69 delta T and this term 5.29. So 5.29 minus 25.69 multiplied by delta T. So delta T is here 4. So it is in hours, so we can convert that in seconds, and also this is in meter cube, and these values are in million meter cube. So we need to calculate this also in million meter cube. So we'll divide this value by 10 to the power of 6. So we can calculate this equation as the known term is, the value that we want to find is S2 minus Q2 delta T by 2 would be equal to S2 plus Q2 by 2 delta T minus Q2 delta T. So this value is 5.29 minus 25.69 into 4 into 60 into 60 divided by 10 to the power of 6. So this will give us the answer as 4.92. So this is how we are going to calculate the value of S2 minus Q2 delta 2. We know the value of S2 plus Q2 delta 2 as 5.29. So this minus Q2 times of delta T. So Q2 is 25.69, delta T is 4 hours, and we have converted meter cube into million meter cube by dividing it by 10 to the power 6. So we get the value of S2 minus Q2 as 4.92. So this is the value of 4.92. Now again, we know this is 4.92, this is 0.72. So if we add this two term, we'll get the value of S2 plus Q2 delta T by 2. So we have added this two term and we got the value of S2 plus Q2 delta T as 5.64. Now for this value, we can get the value of HN outflow by using the derived plot. So for 5.64, the head is 51.58 and the corresponding outflow is 33.85. Now again the same steps, by using this outflow as 33.85 and using this value 5.64. If we subtract this two term, we'll get the value of next term. Then again by adding it 1.59, we'll get the value of S2 plus Q2, and we'll follow the same step and we'll get the value of HN outflow. So this is how we have obtained the value of HN outflow. So here if you look at, the maximum value of head is 5.89, and for this value of 5.89, the outflow is 89.55, right? So this is the outflow. So this is the peak discharge for a downstream hydrograph, right? So what is the inflow for this outflow? So the inflow is this value 109, right? So I would say this is the peak discharge for upstream hydrograph, this is the peak discharge for downstream hydrograph. So if we calculate the difference between the two, we'll get the value of attenuation, right? So attenuation is 107 minus 89.5, right? Also if you want to find the time lag, so this 107 was achieved when time was 12 hours and 89.5 was achieved when time was 16 hours. So there is a total lag of 4 hours, that is 16 minus 12, 4 hours. and the maximum water surface elevation was 51.89. So this was the three term that was to be found, that is attenuation, reservoir lag and maximum water storage elevation. Similarly, we can see another problem that is for determination of Muskingum coefficient. So the Muskingum coefficients are K and X. So we have, for a particular time period, we have inflow and outflow, we need to derive Q and X. So if we know the equation of Muskingum, that is storage is a function of K xi plus 1 minus x of q. So we know the value of inflow, we know the value of q, we want to calculate k and x, right? So how we can do that? So the first step is to derive the value of x, and then we'll plot the value of s versus xi plus 1 minus xi cube, and the slope of this would be nothing but k. So the first thing is to obtain this value. So how we can do that? Since we know the value of I and q, and we can assume that x varies from 0 to 0.5. So we can calculate this term when x is 0, x is 0.1, x is 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 till 0.5, right? And then we can plot s versus xi plus 1 minus x cube curve, and the corresponding slope will give the value of k, right? So what we are doing here is, first we know inflow and outflow, we want to calculate this term. So I is known to us, q is known to us. So first we have calculated I minus q, then we have calculated the value of delta storage. So how we have calculated delta storage? Delta storage is nothing but I minus q into multiplying by time. So this term, that is fourth column, is nothing but we are just subtracting column 2 from column 3, right? Then delta storage is nothing but I minus q, so times of delta t. So we have multiplied 38 with respect to time, that is 4. So we got the value of 152. So this is the change in storage. So, but if we want to find the storage, then we can take the cumulative of delta storage, that is 0 plus 1.52, 152, 152, 152 plus 377, 529. So S is nothing but the cumulative of delta storage. So we know the value of S because we want to plot S versus this term. So we have calculated first the value of S, that is the storage. Now we are going to find this term, and how we can find that for different values of x. So here we have taken x equals to 0.2 to 0.5. So what we are going to do is we are going to substitute x as 0.2 and corresponding inflow 55, corresponding outflow 55, will get the value of when x is 0.2. So similarly we are going to just substitute x, I and q in the above equation, and we are going to fill this column. So this is how we have got this value. Now what we are going to do, we are going to plot individually S versus this term when x is 0.2, then S versus 0.3 wala column, then S versus 0.4 and 0.5. So we are going to plot 4 plots. So we have plot 4 plots. Now we have 4 different plots. So we have to select that plot which represents a straight line. So if we look at this curve, when x is equals to 0.4, it perfectly resembles a straight line. So we are going to go with this term when x is equals to 0.4. And if we plot this curve, and if we see the slope of this, that slope will be nothing but be the value of k. So from this equation, the value of k is 12.048. So we have got the value of Muskingum coefficient as x equals to 0.4 and k equals to 12.04 hours, right? So this is the example where we are supposed to find Muskingum coefficient. Now we are going to take another example which would help us to derive downstream hydrograph using Muskingum method, that is channel routing using Muskingum method. Now if we look at the question here, the river ridge characteristics are x equals to 0.1 and k equals to 3 days, and the time interval is 1 day. So they have given the value of x, k and delta t. They are asking us to compute the Muskingum coefficient, that is C1, C2 and C3, and route the flow following flood hydrograph through the river ridge. Also plot the inflow and outflow hydrograph and determine the attenuation and peak time delay for this flood. So we know the value of time and we know the value of q, right? So we need to find outflow hydrograph, attenuation and peak time. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to check whether it satisfied the condition not, and the condition is k should be greater than delta t and delta t should be greater than 2k of x, right? So the value of k is 3, delta t is 1 and 2k of x is 0.6. So we can say that 3 is greater than 2 and 1 is greater than 0.6. So it is satisfying the condition. So now we can calculate the coefficient of Muskingum, that is C1, C2 and C3 by the above equation, right? So we have calculated the coefficient, Muskingum coefficient C1, which comes out to be 0.0625, C2 is 0.25, C3 is 0.685, and we can now calculate the outflow for the downstream hydrograph by equation C1I2 plus C2I1 plus C3Q1, right? So we know the discharge value here, we know C1I2 terms, we know C2I1, C3I1, we need to find the outflow hydrograph, right? So for the first condition, the outflow hydrograph would be 152, right? That is Q2 is 152, right? Now what we are going to do is we are going to calculate Q2 for second day, right? So the first term we are going to calculate is by 0.0625 of I2. So here the I2 would be inflow of second day, that is 192. So 0.0625 into 192 is 12. Then we are going to multiply C2 with I1. So I1 means previous day's inflow. So the previous day inflow was 152. So 0.25 of 152 is 38. Then we are going to multiply 60875 of Q1. So Q1 is nothing but discharge, that is outflow discharge of previous day. So previous day outflow discharge was 152. So 0.6875 into 152 is 104. And now we are going to just add this 3 term and we'll get the value of Q2. Now again we are going to calculate the next term. So for this term, the I2 is 245. I1 is, for this term is 192 and Q1 for this term is 154.5. And again we are going to so we are going to repeat the same approach and we are going to fill this column of outflow discharge. So now when we see the maximum discharge for inflow is 475 and maximum discharge for outflow is 402. So there is some difference. So this difference is attenuation, and also at the same time the difference in time would give us the time lag. The time lag is 9 minus 7, 2 days, and difference in attenuation is 475 minus 402, 72.27. So they have asked us to plot the hydrograph also. So we have plotted the hydrograph. Here we can see there is some vertical difference between the peak as well as the horizontal difference. So the vertical difference is the attenuation and the horizontal difference between the peak is nothing but the peak time lag. So this is how we can use both the approach to calculate reservoir routing as well as channel routing. So now we are going to see few practice questions as well. So the first question is to estimate the Muskingum coefficient C1 for the river ridge having characteristic x, k and time interval 3 hours. So they are asking us to calculate Muskingum coefficient C1. So this can be done by using this equation. They have given us the value of k, delta t and x. So we can calculate the value of C1. Now the next question they have given us to calculate the river ridge characteristics. X is given to us, k is given, time interval is given. They are asking us to route the falling flood hydrograph through the river ridge. It means it is the sum of river routing, that is channel routing. The initial outflow value is 75 meter per cube. Determine the attenuation, right? And for the same question they are asking us to calculate the peak time lag. So this equation is similarly based on this equation, this problem. So let us solve this equation, that is equation 2 and equation 3. So first we are going to write the given data. So the given data that we have is x is equals to 0.18, k is equals to 4 hours and delta t is equals to 2 hours. So these are the values that were given to us. Now what we are going to do is first we are going to derive the coefficient, that is C1, C2 and C3 for this problem. So we are going to derive the value of C1. So the value of C1 would be delta T by K minus 2x divided by 2 1 minus x plus delta T by K. So by using this equation we are going to get the value of C1 as 0.0654. Similarly, by using equation of C2 and C3 we can calculate the value. So the value of C2 would be, rest everything would be same. So this is equals to 0.4019. Now since we know that C1 plus C2 plus C3 is equals to 1 and we have calculated C1 C2, so we can calculate C1 C3. So the value of C3 would be 0.5327. So now that we have calculated C1 C2 and C3, we can calculate the value of Q2 as C1 I2 plus C2 I1 plus C3 Q2, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to draw a table. So the table, first column would be time, second column would be the value of inflow, next value would be C1 of I2, that is 0.0654 of I2. Next column would be C2 of I1, that is 0.4019 of I1. Then C3 of Q1, that is 0.5327 of Q1, and lastly it would be outflow Q2, right? So initially the inflow was 75. So whatever is the initial inflow, that is we are going to assume it as outflow, right? For second time, that is time is equal to 2, the inflow is 105. So we are going to calculate this term. That is how we are going to calculate 0.0654 multiplied by 105 and we will get the answer, right? Then that answer is nothing but 10.791. So this is I2 for second day. Then we are going to calculate 0.4019 and I1 is 75 and we got the value as 30.142. Then this value is 0.5327 of Q1. So Q1 means outflow for previous day. So outflow for previous day is 75. So we got the value as 39.952. So if when we add this three term, we'll get the corresponding outflow. So this is coming to be 80.886. So similarly we are going to this approach again and we are going to calculate the value of Q2, right? So that value is coming to be 100.14, and similarly we are going to calculate, so this values are coming and the maximum value that is coming is 570.74 outflow. So now when we compare the maximum value of outflow with maximum value of inflow, so the difference between the two will give us the attenuation. So if we look at the given question, the maximum inflow is 685. So here the maximum inflow is 685, which is coming on 9th day, whereas the maximum value of this is coming on 12th day, 13th day. So on 13th day the maximum value of outflow is achieved and on 9th day the maximum value of inflow is achieved. So the difference between the peak will give us the attenuation and the difference between the time lag will give us the lag value, right? So this is a really simple approach to calculate the river routing. So now let us summarize the entire module 5. So the module 5 is started with the classification of hydrological models, right? So we have classified hydrological model based on the variables such as hydrological variable as a function of space, time and randomness, right? Then we derived the hydrological models into two types, that is deterministic and stochastic, based on the function of randomness. Then we looked into hydrological system model. So we have covered the hydrological system model, that is we have studied linear system model approach. So in linear system model we talked about two principles. The first principle was principle of proportionality and principle of superposition, right? Then we have studied the input and response function of linear system. That are, there are different types of input and response function, that is impulse, pulse and step. Then we talked about convolution integral theorem, and using this theorem we have derived the equation for pulse, impulse and step response function, right? Then we talked about hydrographic analysis. So in hydrographic analysis we have studied, we talked about the characteristics of storm hydrograph, that is time base, time peak, time lag. Then we talked about unit hydrograph. We have studied the definition, that is 1 centimeter of excess rainfall occurring uniformly over a catchment for a duration of d hours, right? Then we studied that the unit hydrograph is based on unit pulse response function, that is pulse response function. Then we have studied the derivation of unit hydrograph. We have derived direct runoff hydrograph, right? Then we studied the concept of S hydrograph and instantaneous hydrograph. So the difference between S hydrograph and instantaneous and unit is that the input function changes. For unit hydrograph the input function is pulse response function. For S hydrograph it is step function, and for instantaneous unit hydrograph it is impulse function. So the input function changes. Then we talked about instantaneous unit hydrograph, and we have derived it using two models, two methods, that is by using S hydrograph and also by using Nash models. Then we talked about synthetic unit hydrograph, which is one of the important hydrograph when we don't have any data for a catchment. So what we are going to do is we are going to take the catchment characteristics of a nearby, that is hydrograph characteristics, and catchment characteristics of adjacent or nearby catchment. Then in today's class we talked about flood routing or flow routing. We talked about two types of flood routing, that is hydrologic and hydraulic routing. Then we talked about the difference between the two. For hydrologic routing the equations are continuity equation, right? For hydraulic routing it is continuity plus momentum equation, which is nothing but Saint-Venant's equation, right? Then we talked about reservoir routing. So there we have studied like how reservoir routing is a function. There is a relation between storage capacity as well as the outflow. So we have derived a relation between S and Q. So how we have derived that? We know that the rate of outflow depends upon elevation, and also the storage capacity depends on elevation. So there we can relate that storage is a function of discharge. So whenever we want to use reservoir routing, we are going to use level pull method, which is also known as modified pulls method. So then we have studied the steps that are used to for reservoir routing using modified pulls method. The first step is to derive or plot elevation versus storage, indicated storage term, that is H versus S plus Q by 2 delta T term. Then we are going to plot H versus outflow plot, and then we are going to use the equation, and we can calculate the value of S2 minus Q2 by delta 2 by 2 T term, and for that term what is the corresponding head and outflow would be the next term, and using the same approach we are going to calculate the value of Q2. Then we studied about Muskingum method. So Muskingum method is a method where the storage is a function of both outflow as well as inflow, whereas here in reservoir routing the storage is only a function of outflow. But for Muskingum method it is a function of outflow, that is Q as well as I, and that equation is given as S is equals to K xi plus 1 minus x of Q. So we have seen, and then we have seen the numerical based on both the method, that is modified pulls method, right, and then also by using Muskingum method. And then we have seen few practice question as well. So I think we have covered everything for this week's session. As this week's session was very small, we only have to cover only few topics. That is, we started with hydrographic. The module topic was hydrographic routing, where we divided the topic into two types of routing, that is hydrologic and hydraulic routing. And we looked into detail of hydrologic routing, that is reservoir routing, as well as channel routing or river routing, right? Then we have seen the numerical based on modified pulls, that is for reservoir, and channel routing, that is by using Muskingum method. And then we have also summarized the entire module 5. So I think this is all for this week's session. In next week's session we are going to start with a new topic, that is module 6, which is based on statistics in hydrologic or statistics in hydrology. So in next week's session we are going to learn more into the statistics, that is probability and everything that is related to hydrology. So this is all for this week's session. We'll meet in next week class, next week, that is on 9th April.